Good afternoon, everyone. Even though we're missing a couple of panelists, I presume that they will get here before the afternoon ends, but I'm very respectful of everyone's time, and we do have a relatively tight schedule here. So let's get started. And thanks everyone for coming. I'm so grateful to have all of you here today for this property insurance roundtable. I want to extend a warm welcome to everyone around the table and certainly to those in the audience. The purpose of today's meeting is clear. I wanted to bring together residents, subject matter experts, and policymakers to engage in an open, candid dialogue that is of paramount importance to our community. My phone's ringing off the hook with complaints, even though I'm just the mayor of a city, and I'm sure many of you are also hearing the frustration of our residents. So we are here to address the challenges facing our property insurance market, and it's certainly a topic that touches each and every resident of our city. Now, I'm not naive. I'm not ignorant of the complexities and difficulties that this issue presents. My city, like many others, faces unique challenges, from the increasing frequency and severity of natural disasters to evolving regulatory landscapes. These challenges have put a tremendous burden on our residents and businesses, and it's our responsibility as policymakers to find solutions that will ensure their safety, security, and financial well-being. So, however, even in the face of these challenges, I do believe there are opportunities. Opportunities for innovation, collaboration, and progress. I believe that we as policymakers communicate effectively and actively listen to the concerns of our mutual constituents. We can find a path forward together. Now, it's important to remember that property insurance isn't just about protecting buildings and possessions. It really is about safeguarding the dreams and aspirations of our community members. It's about ensuring that families have a safe and stable place to call home, that businesses can thrive, and that our city remains resilient in the face of adversity. So today I encourage each of us as panelists to approach this roundtable with an open mind, a spirit of cooperation, and a dedication to finding real solutions. Each and every one of you has expertise that's invaluable, and your insights will help shape the future of property insurance in our city. I do not want this to devolve into any kind of finger-pointing or partisan bickering. Now is not the time or the place. Let us keep in mind the broader goal, to build a stronger, more resilient, and more prosperous community of opportunity for all. Together, we can turn challenges into opportunities and forge a brighter path forward for our residents. So thank each and every one of you for your commitment to this important cause, for all the work that you're doing, and for agreeing to be with us today. And I anticipate and I thank you in advance for productive discussions that lie ahead. So I'm going to go around the table. Each of you will have 1 to 2 minutes to introduce yourself, but also talk about how property insurance affects your particular day job, if you will. And we will start with County Commissioner Mac Bernard and work our way around.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. My name is Mac Bernard, County Commissioner for District 7, and I've been Commissioner for 7 years, and I represent most of the city of West Palm Beach. As a Commissioner in District 7, many of our residents have faced an increase in property insurance rates, and I know as part of this discussion, the biggest issue for me is the state of Florida in terms of the lack thereof of creating a solution to addressing this growing problem. The legislature, they've had regular and special sessions to tackle this issue. But however, Citizens Property Insurance, it's the insurance program of last resort. It's still extremely expensive for many of our residents. Citizens has grown to over 1.3 million policies, and there's an effort to depopularize Citizens, about 500,000 policyholders. And however, residents are still facing an increase in insurance rates. And also, the legislature has relied on a market-based solution to address this need, which means that the insurance companies drove most of these solutions. However, these companies are still leaving the state of Florida, and they're dropping the existing rates. So these are some of the issues that are going on in the state of Florida for me, for my constituents, and so really glad to be here and look forward to this roundtable. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Thank you. Representative Caruso.
Thank you, Mayor, and I want to thank you for putting this roundtable together. It's as you're getting a million calls every week, so is my office, and this is a concern of all Floridians. You know, I met Christine Ashburn walking in here. She works for Citizens, and upon the introduction, I said, "Oh, we're trying to put you out of business," and unfortunately, we haven't done that yet. But I'm State Representative Mike Caruso. I represent House District 87, which runs from Manalapan to Jupiter and works its way out towards the Turnpike. Served in office for 5 terms now. 5 sessions now, and working on my, we'll worry about the next one when the next one comes up in, 24. But, you know, this is a big problem. As I mentioned, we're trying to make Citizens the insurer of last resort. Unfortunately, it's probably becoming the insurer of first resort. And we, you know, when I went to Tallahassee in December for a special session, I thought we were there to fix a problem. We were trying to save the industry, is what we were doing. All the insurers were pulling out of the state of Florida, so we were trying to save the industry, and that's what the bill passed in the special session was for. But then we went to work in regular session, and we tried to create a legal framework whereby it would encourage or allow, from a financial perspective, insurers to come back into the state. And then we set up incentives for homeowners to strengthen their homes. And so we did that. We worked on bad faith claims. We worked on assignment of benefits, got rid of that. That was a big problem. And we authorized the OIO, Office and Insurance Regulation, to you know, gave them more tools to fight back against those that were not following the rules. And then we set up the optional reinsurance assistance program with $1 billion of funding in order to allow the insurance companies that do come back in to have a secondary reinsurance market. And through all this, we hope that we'd have more insurers coming in, creating more competition, and therefore reducing the insurance rates, which is why we're here today. So with that, I'll close.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Christine Ashburn, who is Chief of Communications, Legislative and External Affairs for Citizens Property Insurance. Thank you again for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Bernard, and Representative Caruso for having me. Pardon my voice. I'm an FSU fan, so we've been a little bit noisy these last 2 weeks, and it's showing today. I appreciate you having me, and Representative Caruso was absolutely right. In a perfect world, Citizens wouldn't exist. We were created by the legislature beginning in the early 70s for wind issues in Monroe County, and we've grown after Andrew, as you all know. We really needed to step in for that crisis. But in a world where the insurance market is working, Citizens should be lean and small. And why does that matter? It matters because if we run out of money, we can't go insolvent. That's a good thing. But we can tax almost all Floridians through an assessment mechanism to pay for our losses if we can't cover our debts. And that would include your homeowner's policy, whether or not you're with Citizens, your auto policy, your boat owner's policy, your pet insurance. And so a healthy Citizens is a small Citizens. Representative Caruso and Mayor James are correct, and Commissioner Bernard, we've grown, we've ballooned to almost 1.4 million policies. We've been here before. We are the best indicator of the health or the lack thereof of the private market, and the market here has been bad. What I can tell you is that you can't right a ship overnight, but we are confident at Citizens. We do believe the reforms that have been passed are making a difference and will make a difference and bring competition in, which the only way to get rates down is to reduce litigation and losses and bring in more competition. We've seen multiple new carriers join the market since the reforms in December, And we are talking about removing policies for citizens with some guardrails that the legislature's put in place to bring folks back to the private market. I'm happy to be here and look forward to the conversation and listening and hearing from folks here locally. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now have Jennifer Thomason, who's President and CEO of Habitat for Humanity of Greater Palm Beach County.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jennifer Thomason. Thank you so much for inviting me to be at this table. This is a huge issue for Habitat and for our homeowners. For those of you that don't know, we have an amazing partnership with homeowners here in Palm Beach County, throughout the entire county, including the western communities, that are homeowners that are 30 to 80% below the average median income, which is $90,000 approximately for Palm Beach County based on 2022. We work alongside of those homeowners to work very hard to help them attain home ownership, which is something they would not have the option to do. And when they do that, they have a zero interest mortgage that is based on 30% of their income. Now, when that transpires but has to include an incredibly large insurance policy, it increases the huge subsidy that folks like you who donate to Habitat and help subsidize our homes, it increases that subsidy for us, and the homeowner's loan is that much less because it has to factor in that insurance. What we're also finding is that our homeowners who have gotten used to having an affordable loan and being able to afford that monthly payment, for a lot of these homeowners who are working here right next to us in our communities, when that skyrockets and it jumps up that next year, they can't afford it. And so what do they end up having to do? Stop paying their mortgage, stop paying for their home. And so it has tremendously affected Habitat and our homeowners. And I'm very definitely looking forward to hearing from everyone today on some of the options that might be available. We work every year to help shop, to help do little inspections on their homes. We also work with our homeowners that are in neighborhood revitalization. Those homeowners live in their homes. They live in these communities. We help them with a new roof and impact windows and improvements that do help their insurance, but most of them, again, are living on a fixed income, and the insurance is something that's going to take them out of that market, not allow them to continue paying for their home. And we're seeing that this past 2 months with homeowners that are not paying their mortgages just because of insurance. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll turn now to Penny Redford, who is the city's manager of resiliency and climate change. Penny?
Thank you, Mayor. So I bring a little bit different perspective than some folks here. And when I was preparing for this program, I really thought about, so what do you do with insurance? You know, you evaluate your risk, you find the right policy for you, and then, here's where I come in, you make your home more resilient. Because we are seeing the damages because of climate change happening more and more. We've got increased storms, whether it's Hurricane Lee acting crazy out in the Atlantic right now, or Ian last year that did $112 billion worth of damage in Florida. I looked it up. Florida has seen a 92% increase in the last 20 years in billion-dollar disasters. So what can we do from a preparation standpoint? How can we mitigate that, and how can we adapt to the changes that we have? So certainly from my perspective, everything gets wrapped together. You know, the more climate change happens, the more we feed into that, the more that we are going to need to adapt and make changes. And unfortunately, insurance and property, damage is one of those things. So I hope I have an opportunity later to talk about some of the things that we can do from a resilience standpoint. But I also want to mention that the City of West Palm Beach has had an Office of Sustainability since 2008. We have always been a leader in climate change actions, and our city is, preparing. We are looking at mitigation, which means we're trying to reduce the impacts of climate change, and we're looking at adaptation. So how do we adapt to the changes that are already happening? Our city is a LEED Gold city for cities and communities. That's saying that we are at the top, next to the top level of best practices for our city. We have a community ratings system that we're at a Category 5, which is helping to reduce flood insurance. And we have been doing many more things to try and alleviate and mitigate the kinds of impacts for our residents for property insurance. So I hope that we can learn even more about that and have this conversation of where we go from here.
Thank you, Penny. Mr. Luck, thank you. Ludwin Luck, who is the Southeast Florida Regional Manager of the Department of Financial Services. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say thank you for having us, and I just want to express the importance of this roundtable. I'll say that myself, representing CFO Jimmy Petronis, who is the state chief financial officer for the state, and yes, we're the department that actually oversees or regulates the insurance industry. So I truly understand the impact. I've heard from many property owners the insurance rates is something that is heavily impacting their ability to be able to stay in their homes, in their communities. But with that regard, there are resources available that the department does have. I'm pretty sure there are representatives here that understands what we've been doing. We had special sessions last year, and I'm pretty sure there are going to be, this is going to be a hot topic coming into the session that's coming upon us. With that being said, I just want to say thank you, and I do want to express how important that this city has done this, because quite frankly, I've been to many cities, I've been to many counties. This is the first I've ever seen this, so I just want to commend you on doing this.
Thank you, thank you. Although we all know intuitively the nature of the problem, I thought it would be good to have a resident kind of give their heartfelt testimony, if you will. And so I called on my good friend Sal Faso. Sal, if you want to just kind of give us the lay of the land as you see it in 5 minutes, we appreciate it. And I'll let you introduce yourself.
This is on? Great. Well, thank you, Mayor. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today. And thank you to all the people around the roundtable. We do need your help, and we appreciate you spending time with us today. Let me give you a brief introduction of myself and the reason why I'm here. I'm president of the North County Neighborhood Coalition. We have 23 major communities, almost 60,000 residents, about 25,000 residential units that are within it. We've got Iron Horse, Ibis, and Bay Winds from West Palm Beach, but many other communities in Palm Beach Gardens and in Jupiter as well. We focus on our safety, our security, the environment, our financial resiliency, obviously, with regards to what the municipalities and the state may be doing. We look at the fiduciary responsibility. We want to make sure that we have a workable, good relationship. We are not political. We are not a PAC. I don't care whether you're Republican or Democrat, so long as when the time comes, you're an informed resident and you know what you're going to vote for, and go vote. Our voting record, which we pride ourselves on, is 74% over the last 10 years of people going to the polls or having their mail-ins sent in. So with that in mind, what I did when I had an opportunity to speak with Keith and the mayor, thank you very much, obviously, for pulling this all together for us. I went out and I canvassed those people. I just sent a note out. I said, send me what you think the concerns are with regards to property insurance, either in your own home or your neighborhood or friends and whatever. And routinely, and you talked about some of these things, the premium rates have gone through the roof. I mean, we've seen rates double. I went from $4,000 to $8,000 a year in homeowners insurance. And despite the fact we live behind guarded gates and so forth, you think we're that affluent? Well, you know what? We feel the pinch. We feel that as well as anybody else. So premiums obviously are going up without much justification and communications from the insurance companies. They just give you that next bill and either pay it or drop out. The other thing we don't appreciate is being dropped by insurance companies or not being renewed at the end of the term of their particular policy. And that's unsettling, because at the end of the day, we're trying to get insurance, and our agents, if we work with one, are scurrying the hillsides to try to find one that they would obviously, besides Citizens, put us under. And many of them are obviously questioning, what do you have in your home, and how's your rooftop, and how old is your roof, and all that. I should point out, just before I go any further, I've lost everything I owned in 1965 in Hurricane Betsy. I lived just outside of Miami. and experienced, a tragedy in many respects. I was in college, lost my car, lost all the books, lost all the clothes, and in those days, they didn't know what storm surge was. Police said, just park your cars alongside of the building. No problem. 3 o'clock in the morning, we heard a train come in. There's no train on Brickell Avenue, okay? It was water coming in from Key Biscayne, damaging windows and glass and everything else. So they took us off on a rowboat at 10 o'clock in the morning the next day from our rooftop. So that was one experience that I had. I've lived through hurricanes. I was born in a hurricane, born in Coral Gables, and my mom and dad said, you were born almost in the back of an Army Jeep. My dad was in the Army at the time. So I've experienced it from a variety point of view. My concerns are not you people that are here right now, because you're interested, you're trying to get informed, you're trying to learn as to what to do. We estimate that in our community alone, 50% of the people have never been through a hurricane. They have no idea. Apathy is alive and well. And guess what? Hurricane Lee, oh, it's not going to hit. See, Hurricane Dorian didn't hit. So they're saying, what's the panic? We'll be okay. Most of our homes, if not all of them, are built to code. So when Andrew came and did what it did down south, I mean, the codes obviously got tougher to meet, and most of the builders have done a great job in trying to meet those. So we're up to spec. So the question is, when we get canceled, why? We don't get explanations. We just get, you're canceled or your policy is not renewed. So whether it's premium increases and or policy, obviously, cancellations, there's another big one that seems to show up all the time. You file a claim, you're not covered. What do you mean I'm not covered? You've never had a claim before. I had an experience. I had to replace a dining room window for $11,000. The adjuster came in and said, wear and tear. Wear and tear. We've never had a claim. It's a 20-year-old home, but it's a beautiful home, well-built and all that. Never covered it. Had to pay it out of my own pocket. Okay? And then when you do get a claim that's legit, it takes forever to get it processed. And you never get your payment on time. So those are at least 4 things that I hear fairly regularly from the residents that I deal with. We meet monthly. We have an annual meeting. Some of the elected officials, Representative Caruso, Keith James has been out there, Mac Bernard has been out several times presenting to our residents and hearing their concerns and the like. So I'm glad we're meeting today, because if we can get the issues on the table, or some of them, brainstorm together as a partnership. We need to work together with the state and with the municipality, the county, and the city, and you see all the representatives here. If we had all the answers, we would have done it already. We don't have all the answers, so maybe we need to be creative. So I thank you, Mayor James, for pulling this together. And I brought along with me somebody who was a former general counsel of Crum and Foster. He's a resident at PGA National. I know he's not in West Palm Beach, but I thought his presence here and his expertise might be helpful to us. So, for the record, we only write commercial insurance. Commercial insurance. Well, thank you very much, Mayor James.
Thank you very much, Sal. Truly appreciate your perspective. A couple of housekeeping matters. We have in each of your chairs, I believe, comment cards. If time permits, we will, and if you have a comment or question, please fill that out. There'll be a staff member that picks that up from you, and if time permits, we'll try to get through some of those. Also, parking tickets, we have stickers to validate your parking, if that is something that you need, and see one of the staff persons. All right, let's get into the meat of the discussion. And I'm going to go back to you, Representative Caruso, because this all, I guess, begins with the legislature and the laws. So can you, you alluded to the special session and some of the initiatives that were there. Do you want to give a little bit more detail to those? And secondarily, are there other pending bills or policy considerations that the public should be aware of at this time? I know it's pretty early.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I guess, when we look at insurance, and this is a staggering fact, $3 of every $4 paid out by our insurance companies in the state of Florida goes towards legal fees. And so, it's the environment that we had created, the tort environment that we had created over the many, many years that kind of created this situation where insurance companies were not just paying for damage, they were paying the legal fees to get that damage paid. We worked on both sides in the Florida House and the Senate, and welcome Senator Bobby Powell. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
We'll give you time to do the introduction. Let me have him finish answering that question. Thank you.
But and so what we did is we strengthened the standards for bad faith claims, and we crack down on insurance companies. What I mean is we crack down on insurance companies and the way they handle claims and how fast they've got deadlines now and how fast they have to respond for a claim. Whereas before it was open, there were no deadlines. It had reasonable is a very subjective term. There is no more reasonable anymore. It is a defined date limit. I believe that insurance companies have one week to respond to your claim. And to continue letting you know how the process is going. Tort reform, some of the things we did there was one-way legal fees. Before, which was it's a big deal. We're trying to attack this legal cost issue. Prior to our legislation in session, we had one-way legal fees. So if you had a claim and you filed, you hired an attorney, he filed a suit, and if that claim was found without merit, then the insurance companies wouldn't have to pay anything on it if it was found without merit. But if it was found to have some merit, a little bit, say 10% of the claim, then they had to pay, the insurance companies had to pay the entire legal cost. And so now if it was without merit, the insurance company never had an opportunity to reclaim their legal cost. So somebody gets injured, not injured, but a home is damaged. They file a claim, hire an attorney, and they find out that that the damage wasn't as proposed, and the judge awards nothing to the claimant, okay, for whatever the details of that say. The insurance companies had no way to get reimbursed for their legal expenses. We opened it up. There's no more one-way legal fees, which will cut down on fraudulent cases. It'll cut down on bad faith cases, and should reduce a significant amount of cost to the insurance companies. With that being said, we hope that this will reduce premiums. Currently, Mayor, we've got thousands and thousands of lawsuits lined up, and everybody's wondering, well, you went in there and you changed, you had a special session, you had regular session, you passed all these laws. Why aren't our insurance premiums lower? And I want to say it's coming, okay, it's coming. With this backlog of things, we're not going to feel the effect of this for probably 4 or 5 years on the outside. And it could come sooner, but we're dealing with thousands and thousands. These insurance companies are fighting thousands of cases. The laws that we did were not retroactive. So that's one of the things that we're going on. I don't know if you want me, Mayor, to get into some of the programs we have for hardening, for resiliency, things like that.
We'll circle back around.
I'd like to weigh in on this issue because, I disagree on saying that, hey, it's because of litigation. I served in the Florida House, and the issue of insurance keeps coming up year after year after year, and the legislature continues to reduce benefits to the residents, and where you're getting less coverage, and your prices for premiums are going up, and they blame it on tort reform as the only way that's going to address this problem. Tort reform is that's not going to solve everything that's taken place by the legislature. I believe that more work needs to be done from the legislature to address this issue. So we can't talk about just tort reform at all. That's going to solve everything.
Okay.
If I could interject, Mayor.
Okay.
Commissioner, I didn't mean to or intend to state that the things we did with regards to tort reform is the end all. Not at all. We've got more work to do. I'm sure we're going to readdress the whole situation come our next session in January. And, you know, we've got a lot to work on still.
Okay, let me get Senator Powell to give him an opportunity to introduce himself. And then I want you to address the question that I asked Representative Caruso, which is, what is your perspective on recent legislative changes? And are there any pending bills or policy considerations, future bills or policy considerations that the public should be made aware of? But you got half a minute to introduce yourself, and I know that's a short time for you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor James. I am, of course, Bobby Powell, Jr., State Senator representing Senate District 24. After redistricting, we changed to 24 as opposed to 30, which is the northern parts of Palm Beach County. We start at PGA Boulevard, go south all the way down to Hypoluxo Road, and we are encapsulated on some points between Jog Road, State Road 7, and some points of I-95 on the western boundary. The eastern boundary, of course, is the intracoastal. I would like to, one, thank my colleague for his update with regard to what we did in session this year as it relates to insurance. And, you know, I was at a town hall with WPB-TV, and this was a few days ago, last week. And I do want to just address something. My colleague had brought up some issues that we talked about with regard to insurance. And let's, you know, full transparency here. This legislation that passed, for the most part, nearly passed on party lines in both the House and the Senate. And what that says is that we've talked about, and we did a special session related to this, and it wasn't really addressed that much during the session, except for during a portion of the session we addressed Senate Bill 7052, which was the Insurer Accountability Act. Some of the things that happened, some of my colleagues, we offered amendments to deal with this crisis. Some of those amendments included putting a cap on how much insurance companies can raise rates, to stop rates from being raised if we're going to do all these additional, what I would call defects or benefits to insurance companies, but not beneficial to consumers. And all those amendments were shot down, even a 5% increase. Myself, including many people who are in here, have seen increases in their homeowners insurance of upwards of 35%. And that's not just 2 years ago, that was last year as well. Representative Caruso just indicated that we could see this change in anywhere from 4 to 5 years. Many of the people who are here today and who are watching at home, we just don't have 4 or 5 years that we can wait. We were told previously that it would be 18 months, and that was over 2 years ago. And 18 months, if we start the clock from when it originally started, has come. And this year in May, I got another insurance bill that increased my insurance by another $1,000. Fortunately, you know, I live in a two-income household. Me and my wife both work. But what happens to those people who are not in a two-income household? People are drowning, and we've failed as a legislature to put any real safeguards in place that will protect people. Citizens has become the insurer of last resort. We understand that there are new insurance companies that are now coming into Florida that will take away a number of the policies that are in Citizens. But consider this, we passed legislation that in that special session that says if you are in Citizens and you can find a policy or insurer that will carry you for 20% more, anything less than 20% more, you're forced out of Citizens. So if you take, right now, you're paying $5,000, and you find something that's paying 20% more than $5,000, you're already stretching if you're paying $5,000 to be in Citizens, but you find something that's paying 20% more. Now you're forced out of Citizens into this new insurance company. You already couldn't afford the $5,000, but now you're forced to pay more. One of the things that we've addressed and we talked about in session was the idea, and it's a constant, Commissioner Bernard talked about it, it's a constant moving ball. You know, at first it's assignment of benefits, then it's any
bad faith,
and now it's the roofers and a number of issues related to these studies that say Florida's the highest in terms of litigation. Well, I'll tell you, I got a call from a roofer the other day. We passed legislation a few years ago that prevents attorneys from directly soliciting people who have been involved in that accident, but we have not pushed anything that bars these roofing companies from calling you and saying, hey, we're going to just happen to be in your neighborhood tomorrow. We want us to check your roof. I mean, we've got opportunities to do things that we haven't done. Creating legislation that really hampers on consumers becomes problematic. And I know, people will say it time and time again, and I am in Tallahassee, that this is not a Democrat or Republican issue. That's true. But when it comes to the legislation that's passed, it passes on party lines because it's not worked on by Democrats and Republicans together, and we create legislation that does not benefit consumers the way that it should. And in this case, there are a number of things that were passed with regard to this legislation that I don't think have been specifically beneficial to consumers. And the number one thing I would say is we've reduced the amount of coverages that people can get. Your roof, if you have to have, your roof has to be a certain age in order not to be denied.
Give me your top three, because I need to move on to.
Absolutely. Top three things we haven't done or we need to deal with. Number one, this idea of roofers. Number two, as it relates to insurance in the state of Florida. Some of these companies, we need to put them under oath as we discuss what's going on, because they get a number of benefits, and these executives are taking these benefits. And the third thing I would say is to address it with consumers and the insurance companies in the same room, so that we are able to benefit everybody as opposed to one particular group.
Okay, thank you. Obviously, we probably spend hours talking about the defects in the bill or the advantages of the bill, but I did want to touch on some other aspects of this problem. And I think we need a better understanding of the role of citizens, because it sounds like citizens is going to be here in this marketplace for a while. Christine, if you could talk a little bit more about the role of citizens and what they're doing, and then how does citizens itself work to balance affordability while managing its financial stability?
Certainly. Thank you, Mayor. It's good to see you, Senator Powell.
Good to see you, Christine.
So as I mentioned earlier, Citizens is the state credit insurer in a perfect world of last resort. I think it is true that in many areas of the state, we are acting right now as the insurer of first resort, and probably in many cases only resort. Like I mentioned when I did my opening comments, we are, in our opinion, the best barometer of the health or lack thereof of the property insurance market in Florida. Just 4 or 5 years ago, not even that long, we were at 420,000 policies. We're pushing 1.4 million. That means carriers are reducing writings. We've had farmers announce they're leaving. That is an indication of trouble overall. So our role is to be there for you when you can't find other coverage. And I think, Mayor, your comment about affordability is an intricate and interesting and difficult balancing act. We have a statute that mandates what we write, how we write, what's eligible. We don't underwrite like private companies do, but we do underwrite. There are some things that are uninsurable, and our statute says that you are entitled to have coverage with us if you are otherwise insurable but can't find coverage, or can't find coverage that is within 20% of the renewal offer you get, the offer you get from Citizens. And to Senator Powell's point, and we probably do disagree on this one, one of the things that we did advocate for is, I used to joke that we were like Hotel California. Once you came in, you never had to leave. To get in the front door, you had to have an offer that was higher than 20% from what you were offered by Citizens. But on the back end, through the depopulation program or clearinghouse, you could stay if it was cheaper to leave. Well, as I mentioned, we have the ability to assess almost all Florida policyholders. So that's why it's important. So all we wanted in the 20% changes was to treat everyone the same, whether you're coming or trying to leave. Everyone has the same eligibility threshold. I think that a small citizens is a good citizens. Affordability is a real problem. And I do want to point out, listen, I live in Tallahassee, and we, for the most part, have been immune, candidly. And I'm looking at some of my friends who and colleagues who are up there, and whether it's part-time or full-time, we are usually immune from these insurance crises in Tallahassee. We are not immune anymore. I saw my policy jump. But what I'd like you to do when you're home is take a look at what your coverage your coverage value was a year ago and what it is now. We use an inflation guard that's based on local costs, right? And that's a normal thing in insurance to make sure you're adequately covered, right? Your value of your home increases for real estate purposes, but also the cost to rebuild and put you back together also increases over time. Normally, our inflation factor is like 3% on average. I might be off by a point or two. So nominal, right? Last year, we were averaging 18 to 20% inflation guard factors on average in the state of Florida. So your coverage amount has increased drastically. I looked at mine. I'm an insurance nerd. And almost all of my increase in cost was because of the value that it would take to rebuild my home had gone up so much. Now, I'm happy to report the updated values coming into this year now have settled right back down. But we did absolutely see, so while we talk about premiums and rate increases, it is a two-pronged thing. In the inflation world, we know, we saw the pandemic, and we saw supply chain issues, and we saw, stuff not coming out of China. All the things that we all know about impacted building costs just like everything else we're seeing. Oh my goodness, the cost of milk, we all know that. So I think that's important to note. I actually, Representative Caruso, have a little bit brighter opinion on the reforms. We believe 12 to 18 months, if not 18 to 24 months. You can't fix it overnight. Carriers that are currently here are not going to have the capacity to write as quickly. New companies are, and candidly, new companies do not have the litigation problems we've seen. And if they can get good reinsurance, they should be able to have competitive rates. So we are optimistic that good stuff is coming, but I understand the pain points that we're in right now. But our role is to be here when you need us and take care of you while you're with us, as our CEO, Tim Seary, would tell you, and hopefully find you a home back in the private market that works for you and works for your needs, and then ultimately reduces the burden of all Floridians for citizens.
Thank you. But by the way, panelists, if you hear something that you want to respond to, don't hesitate to
Could I
jump
interject
in.
now?
Sure. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Christine, I think you hit the head on the nail. The nail on the head.
I wasn't going to correct you.
Yeah, thank you. The nail on the head. If we have the cost to replace your home is going up 20%, just your construction cost every single year compounded, that is a tremendous impact, almost directly correlating to the increase of your insurance rates. So, we have a risk in Florida. That risk is kind of steady. We've had a lot of hurricanes. We've always had a lot of hurricanes. So that risk kind of stays the same. But the cost of construction is going up, and that's a one-to-one correlation. And, so we need to do things like, Ms. Redford, in your department, hardening. And what we've done in the state of Florida over the last year was we created hardening programs, the $10,000 grant for low-income individuals for hardening projects. Even the assessment, we pay for the assessment of what they can do to their home to harden their home. And then typically the savings are about $1,000 on that $10,000, $1,000 per year. So we worked hard to make sure that lower income individuals would have an opportunity to harden their homes, improve their homes, and save insurance rates. And then we provided a $460 million sales tax holiday for hardening items, such as if you went to the store and you bought windows. You wouldn't have to pay sales tax on those. So those are just some of the things that we've done in the state, but to try to reduce the cost. But we've got a lot of work to do.
Mayor, may I jump in? It basically culminates everything that we'll be discussing. I just raise a hand. Who's familiar with the Department of Financial Services? Okay. All right. So I figured as much because oftentimes I go to meetings, commission meetings, or just in general on this in the community, and most people may not know. And no, we're not the department that hands out money, although it does state that we're financial services. What I stated earlier before was that we regulate the insurance industry. So, for example, you, the consumer, where there's any type of insurance with the exception of flood, if you have an issue with your policy or the insurance company, our department actually advocates for you. So you can contact us, and we can actually provide you either information or services or advocate on your behalf in order to basically go through these hard times. It was stated earlier as far as some of the fraud of as far as what's going on in the community. And no, we're not saying that contractors or roofers are bad. Unfortunately, there are some people who do act in bad faith. With that being said, there is a hotline, or there is a way where the community can help, because I don't think it was really addressed or mentioned that as far as the reason or some of the reason why insurance rates goes up is because of the fraud. I know that's not necessarily the big part, but it is a huge component, because what happened is what the representative mentioned, you go through litigation and find out it's actually not it's not legitimate, or there's some problematic issue with the claim itself, and it's actually legitimately not true. So what happened is it impacts everybody else, because the insurance company now has to find a way to recuperate. And how they're going to do that? They're going to get it from everybody else. They're going to raise everybody's interest rate. And so I know that seems unfair, but that's just the nature of the circumstances. So if you do see something, hear something, or something doesn't seem right, please contact us, because we actually do have agents that would investigate these companies, and we actually do put them in jail, make sure that they're not impacting the community that way. Also, at the same time,
Do you have a number for that hotline that you could?
yes, I do have it in front of me. So for the fraud tip, I have two numbers I can give you. First, for the fraud tip hotline, it is 1-800-378-0445. I'll repeat. 1-800-378-0445. And for the consumer helpline, it is 1-877-693-5236. I'll repeat again. 1-877-693-5236. And there's other ways, obviously, our department can assist. And as far as what the representative, I'm pretty sure Senator Bobby Powell knows this as well, but it's the My Safe Florida Home Program, which basically deals with the resiliency. So if you're having a home project and basically you're doing your roof or windows or garage doors or a front door, there are funds that's available for you. Correct me if I'm wrong, Representative, we didn't have this, or at least this component of the program about several years ago. So this is a new program that we're tackling to address.
It's been refunded. It was created after the 04 and 05 storms, but it had not been funded since then until, I believe,
Correct.
last year, maybe?
Yeah, we put $250 million into it, and it's called the My Safe Florida Home Program.
It's great. You get a free inspection. I just actually ordered one myself just to see, because we're partnering with marketing with citizens, obviously. And as the representative referenced, if a certain income level, there's no match required, which is wonderful. You can get up to $10,000, and it used to be a 1-to-1 match for everybody else, and now it's a 2-to-1 match by the state. So that is housed with you guys, and it's a great program. Resiliency, Penny, hardening homes from wind, for us, huge. Makes you more attractive for the private market, and means that you are less likely to be out of your home for 12 to 24 months if the big one hits.
So it's a reissue program. I know I saw it was, you said 2004, but I think in 2010, I saw it was still a program that was happening in My Safe Florida Home.
Yeah.
Under the CFO at the time was Alex Singh. So
Yes, it was actually created while she was CFO after the last set of storms. And now it's been funded by you all again, which is wonderful. It's the best way to protect yourselves in Florida is to protect yourselves from.
How do they access information about
Mr.
that
Mayor,
program?
it's the residents who are watching, they could go to www.mysafeflhome.com. And if you
Read that
go on
again, please.
mysafeflhome.com.
Okay.
And that's the website address. Mr. Mayor, I do have a question for Ludwin regarding.
Sure.
I know I've read that there are new companies who are moving to Florida. What's the CFO's take on making sure that these companies are well capitalized So if we do get a storm, that they're not just gonna up and leave.
You know, and in terms of making sure insurance companies stay, I know the CFO's ensuring that are able to create an environment where they're able to stay. Now, as far as the challenge is making the market more competitive, where trying to get more insurance companies to come back. So you're going to see more attempts like we've had in with the special session. Hopefully, we can do much more, as what was alluded to by the legislators here. And so, with that being said, I can follow up with you as far as like what his plan of attack is, plan of attacks. But as far as everything that we're doing right now is to address the environment that the insurance companies are leaving. So we've seen right now that there are companies that are coming back, but of course, the challenge is to have more competing market for the community.
Yeah. My concern is that, yes, we're bringing new companies, 7 new companies are coming, but if they're not well capitalized and they're creating shell companies, then, we get a storm and then all of a sudden they just pack their bags, they receive premiums from our residents, and then they leave. So if there are no guardrails to make sure that they're staying, then, they're going to come, take the money, and then they leave. So I hope that, in the future that we can make sure that they're well capitalized. So in that way, we're protecting the taxpayers of the state of Florida.
Well, to follow up with that, I do believe that the legislation that we passed during the special session does help with that. But of course, I can get you more information to address your question.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
And let me say this, we go to session for 60 days, and that we start with committee weeks. Caruso, we're getting ready to start committee weeks pretty soon. And then session starts in January, goes into the early part of March. That's an elongated time that gives everybody an opportunity to really sink their teeth into any piece of legislation that we're working on. When we have a special session like we did with the insurance special session, it is a heightened time frame where we're going in to do one specific thing, and not everybody has worked on that legislation. And I can tell you last year when we did
Senator Powell, what you're basically saying that the insurance companies wrote the legislation. Is that what you're trying to say?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, all right, let's try to keep it constructive. All right, I do want to talk, and I know Penny is chomping at the bit, to talk a little bit about programs to help with resiliency, sustainability. We heard about the program from the Department of Financial Services and Commissioner Bernard, and I'm going to get you, Penny. Does the county have any programs that are specifically designed to help with resiliency?
Well, we've created an Office of Resilience at the county, and we're continuing to monitor and to see what are the different ways that we can address resiliency for our residents. And of course, the city of West Palm Beach is also doing that. One issue that we didn't talk about, which is legislation to create a national catastrophic relief fund to help during these storms, or hurricanes, tornadoes. So I'm hoping that the federal government will also tackle that, so in that way we can create this fund. Of course, there are some issues in terms of how it's funded and all of that, but I believe that we've had those discussions, but that's something that we need to eventually move toward, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Penny, did you want to spend a couple of minutes talking about the resiliency efforts?
Thank you. And I, Commissioner Bernard, I appreciate that comment about a catastrophic insurance, because there is conversations, I know, in the resiliency field about disaster insurance and what is that extra insurance you might need to carry on top of your property insurance, and that would certainly help in that area. Representative Caruso, I'm going to say, yes, we have always had hurricanes, but the U.S. has had 6 hurricanes in 6 years that were Category 4 or 5, and 4 of those hit Florida. So we are seeing that intensity of the hurricanes and the and how many are hitting. So some of the things that we certainly try and do, and I think about, is that building the resiliency into a home and businesses as well. So what is it that we all can do? And I appreciate that you were talking about my Safe Florida Home and the resilience, the tax-free dollar days, that is so important. And getting that word out. We try and educate our residents about different programs, and we also, I have to take a moment to say thank you for the Resilient Florida grant program that the legislature has been funding. Our city has gotten over $8 million worth of grants that is going to be helping with flooding and seawall, pilot seawall program. And these are all things that are building resilience in that will help your homes be more resilient. When we look specifically at the homes, though, our city has constantly adopted the latest building codes, and that is so important because not all cities are quick to act on that, and people don't realize it. I'm sure you all have seen that picture of Ian. There's one home standing and all the homes around it are just decimated. That was showing what newer homes with newer building codes can withstand versus some of the older homes. So using these benefits, the My Florida Safe Home and the tax-free days, to harden your roofs, to look at, our PACE program that you could maybe do some work on. Get the hurricane windows and the shutters and, look at some low-cost, long-term improvements that you can do with your home. We have several programs that work both for greenhouse gas mitigation, saving energy and saving water, that can then give you more money to be able to put into those other resilience programs. So we have been doing a home improvement program where low-income folks and others can go to a workshop and take home information that is talking about resilience, taking home materials that can, go home right then and put a dozen LED light bulbs in your home. Okay. So we provide additional information about resilience and weatherization for your homes.
Okay, and they could probably go to our website to find out more information.
Please do.
I do want to go to Jennifer, because another major issue, certainly in our county and perhaps in other parts of the state, is affordability of housing. How does this insurance crisis, and that's a space that you play in, how does this insurance crisis affect the inventory of workforce housing?
That's a great question. So I think, what it does is it actually deters folks from entering into our program, because when we're evaluating someone who may be minimum wage, maybe they're 50% the average median income, maybe they're making $30,000 a year, and when we're crunching those numbers for them, even with a zero-interest mortgage based on 30% of their income, with the insurance that they're going to have to pay and the property taxes they're going to have to pay that are based on the market, even though it's a highly subsidized house, they can't participate in our program. It actually takes homeownership away from them. We work tirelessly, and it's a very small staff every year to help shop insurance, do some of the hardening. All of our houses are incredibly well built with impact windows, with amazing roofs, all of the things that we can do, and then yet no matter what, that next year, their payment's going up $500 to $600, and for somebody who is making 20 or 30 or 40,000, they can't afford that. And we are the lender. So we have to protect that home, so they have to have insurance. So it's actually deterring people from being able to be in our program, because they might as well just rent for that piece, because it's so unpredictable of how much that rent will go up, and it's hard for us to even prepare them to plan for that hike in insurance. So it's really forced us, and I mentioned before that we right now in the last 2 months have had folks that have stopped paying their mortgages. And we're trying to figure out what else is out there because we do not want them to lose these homes that they have worked 2 years and over 400 hours just to get the keys for. And so we're now trying to shop around, work with insurances, find out what subsidies are out there to have them not foreclose on their home. So it's really impacted us.
All right, thank you. We have a hard stop, and I apologize because it sounded like we were just warming up to get into the meat of the conversation. And I knew we weren't going to solve the insurance problem in an hour, but I did want to set the precedent, if you will, of folks with different perspectives on the problem being able to sit at a table and have a conversation. I don't think that we've reached resolutions. In fact, one of the cards that I got, and I'm going to give each of you, I'm going to just go around the table and you can answer this question. How do you fix the problem? And I say somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but I do want to give each of you kind of a minute or two to give a closing argument. But what is clear even from this hour-long discussion is that the scope of the problem is huge. I think what we've done is hopefully been able to identify some of the factors that play into that. We may not agree upon all the factors, but we agreed on some of the factors that play into that, and also see how it impacts other very vital issues in our county, such as the affordability of housing. We've heard about programs that will help people make their homes more resilient, which hopefully is helpful information. But I'm going to start with you again, Representative Caruso. Very briefly, any closing arguments?
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks everybody for coming here today. It's roundtables like this which do lead to the resolve of the matter and ideas coming up. You know, we need to continue to expand the programs that we have, my Safe Florida Home programs, things like that. We need to, you know, continue with the exemptions on hardening, you know, purchases, things like that. Those are key. We need to expand them and put more money towards those. We also need to make sure that we create an environment that allows, that encourages insurance companies to come into the market and create a competitive market. And right now, you know, we haven't had that in the last year or so. So that's one thing we need to do. Another issue, I guess, you know, third part of the pedal would be to crack down on fraud and wrongdoing. You know, it's you know, when your neighbor gets the insurance company to pay for a roof that is 25 years old, and all we had was a little thundering and lightning, you're paying for his roof or her roof. You're paying it in increased premiums, and we need to crack down on that type of fraud. It's wrong, and it just hurts all of us. So, you know, create an environment that allows insurance companies to make a reasonable profit, and but create it, you know, in a way that all the dollars aren't going towards legal fees and things like that. And I would encourage, you know, Ms. Redford, you mentioned all different means of hardening. Another one, simple one, is strapping down your roof to your tie beam, whether that tie beam is concrete or structural wood. You got to tie down those roofs.
Okay, thank you.
I'll end with that. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for putting this together.
Absolutely. Senator Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the things I would say is that this is a problem that can be fixed. You've started. One of the things that we should do is bringing everybody to the table and developing a comprehensive list of issues that need to be addressed. When we talk about fraud, we talk about different companies, we talk about the insurers' continued benefits, but we also need to look at bringing insurance companies, attorneys, business people, as well as citizens to the table to develop this comprehensive list and approach that does not benefit one specific set of people, that we all benefit, so that we can keep our homes here in the state of Florida. We know we're exposed on every coast, but we do also know that there's ways to fix it. When everybody focuses on the problem, it can be fixed. We've addressed a number of issues that were not major problems in the legislature, but this is an issue that impacts everyone. We've focused on things that are non-issues. We should really put our heads together as a legislative body, Democrats, Republicans, business, lawyers, insurance companies, and we can fix the problem. And that's really the only way that it happens. Everybody's got to be talking about this and working to resolve it.
Thank you. Commissioner Bernard?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The legislatures, they've gone to special session and regular session, and they've passed measures, and it's provided little relief for our residents in Palm Beach County. As Sal mentioned, from NCNC, premium increases being dropped and not being renewed. You file a claim and you're not getting coverage, and then if you do file a claim, it takes so long for you to get your claim back. What I would say is that I would encourage the residents to take advantage of the available programs that are out there, as mentioned, the My Safe Florida Home Program, the tax-free holidays exemption, so that way you can harden your homes. And then also, Mr. Mayor, I believe that we need to advocate for federal involvement and comprehensive solutions to address this need. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Luck?
Mr. Mayor, thank you again for putting this on together. I just want to state that, again, it's a pleasure to be here. Now, I will tell you this. Chief Financial Officer Jimmy Petronis doesn't care about the community as far as, what's going on. He's a, very personable person that oftentimes gives his personal cell. But obviously, I'm not going to give you my personal cell, but I will give you the website that you can go to. Everything that was mentioned as far as resources and where you can get some help. I do want to state that you can go to myfloridacfo.com. Again, that's myfloridacfo.com. There you find a plethora of information and agencies that can assist you. Also, the information regarding the My Safe Florida Home Program. It's quite a lot, but at the same time, I'm here actually as a regional representative for the CFO, so I cover Barrow County out to Indian River. So if you need to speak to somebody that's local, kind of walk you through this or whatnot. But again, that's why I'm here. And again, I just want to say thank you, Mayor, for having us and speaking about this issue.
Thank you. Ms. Thomason?
So two people mentioned the national disaster insurance, and I'm not knowledgeable of it. I've been speaking with a lot of legislatures over the past few months, and it's been brought up a few times that it's been talked about for about 13 years and just sort of keeps getting talked about. So there is long-term, and Senator Powell also mentioned it, is having some legislation that actually caps the insurance policies from how much they can jack up their prices, because to what Commissioner Bernard said, sometimes there's no rhyme or reason. They just raise them, they drop you, they don't cover what you are, there's no regulation really on them. So I think the legislation is really a long-term, something that has to really be intentionally discussed. And I'm so glad that we now have, and I know that we're utilizing a lot of those resources, but I don't think we're utilizing them enough. So short term, I do think they're a thing for residents to be able to do to maybe soften the pinch a little bit. What's frustrating is that just each year we keep having to do it all over again and have the conversation all over again and fight the hike every single year. So legislation for people coming in, I think, is huge. And looking at that national disaster relief insurance policy, I think, is another.
Ms. Ashburn? Christine?
Yes, thank you. So please go to our website. We obviously don't want you to come to us if you don't need us, but we do have a great amount of information. It's citizensfla.com about mitigation, learning about insurance, understanding deductibles. I think it's important for people to understand what coverages they do have. I will just point out, I think it is true that the history in Tallahassee has been that when we can't, fix the big ticket item, we have tinkered with coverages, we have reduced coverages. We truly believe that what has been done is going to go a long way to fix it. It's going to take time. Fraud and abuse is a major problem. We have a really hard time. Candidly, we work closely with the DIFS team at DFS, that's the fraud team, getting prosecutors to take these cases. They're complex, they're tedious, they're hard to take to court, they're not glamorous. So many times, the team at DFS, from a citizen's perspective, hands over a case that should be prosecuted, and state attorneys walk away from them because they're hard to prosecute. So anything that can be done to shore up getting after the bad guys, because if your neighbor goes to prison for getting a free roof, we had a case in Miami that was a ring that we worked with Catherine Fernandez-Rundle, who was the state attorney in Miami. We tested the ceiling panels for caffeine. They were painting the ceiling tiles with coffee. So, and that's an easy one, by the way. If your ceiling test positive for caffeine, it's not a water loss. So, but those are the easy ones because it's like, that's glamorous. But these are tough cases. So if you see fraud or think your neighbor's doing something wrong and they say, hey, I got a free roof, call the fraud hotline because they're costing you more money. And not everybody, and candidly, what's sad is a lot of, I think, customers don't realize that when someone knocks on their door and tells them they can get a free roof, that you are now complicit in insurance fraud. So, thank you for having us.
Thank you. And Penny.
Well, Mayor, thank you, and thank you for your support and leadership. It's so vital in all of these things, and climate change, you know, Jennifer said it seems like we're doing this every year we're redoing, but look at all the new people that we have coming into our state that don't know hurricanes, that don't know sea level rise, and they're not used to our building codes or what to expect. So education and staying, you know, on top of that is so important. But I guess what wraps it all up for me, and I'm always going to be looking at the big picture, is climate change is really impacting everything for us right now. And when I think about sustainability, I don't think about sustainability just for, you know, climate. I think about sustaining your household. So if there are things that you can do that will help reduce your water costs, will help reduce your electric costs, well, that means you've got money that can be helping with some of your other costs and putting food on the table and everything else. And a lot of those things are helping to mitigate, to reduce the things that are causing some of our problems, the climate change issues. We didn't even talk about heat, and heat is going to be something. Heat, believe it or not, impacts buildings too. It impacts roofs, it impacts foundations, and we've had the hottest summer on record. So what I would ask of you is to please think about what you can do and be a champion in the community to spread the word. Please go to our website, wpb.org/green, and take advantage of some of the programs that we're doing, and I'm always available to talk. So please stay in touch with us.
Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you, panelists, for coming. If nothing else, we've demonstrated the complexity of the issue here, but there may be some action items, talking to your federal representatives on a National Catastrophe Fund, continuing to work with, we're not taking any more, I'm sorry, we're out of time, we have a hard stop. Continuing to work with your, or speak to your state representatives and legislatures on coming up with a solution. I mean, the status quo is simply unacceptable, and they need to hear that in Tallahassee. That's about all I have to say. Thank you for coming, and have a good day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.